everyone, welcome back to my channel. In this episode, I'm going to be talking to a speech language pathologist who is a private clinic owner, and we are talking about floor time training. If you're interested in learning more about floor time and just hearing more about the different options for training, then definitely check out this video.
Hi, Cassidy. Thank you so much for joining me and chatting with me a little bit about floor time. I'm so excited to just be able to hear your experiences. So, why don't you introduce yourself?
I'm Cassidy. I own a speech therapy practice in Pennsylvania. So I started out just by myself, and now it's me and one other therapist. And I would say it doesn't look like a traditional speech therapy clinic. And a lot of that is from the floor time stuff that I've learned. I actually just, as of today, completely removed all the toys from free access in the clinic. So it kind of looks like an OT clinic where there's a lot of sensory supports. We work with a lot of kids with very complex communication needs. So it's kind of a mix of children that come to the clinic here.
Wow, that's really great. I'm happy to hear about the toys. So, talk to me about your floor time training. I know that you did start off kind of taking the DIR floor time route and you were studying under ICDL, and then you decided to switch and you started doing the Greenspan floor time training. Talk to me about like your experiences with that and just what you think about the trainings.
So I did the through the ICDL, the intro DAR training, I want to say maybe a little bit over a year ago or so. And I feel like the intro one is pretty good for people maybe who don't do any sort of trial ed therapy or just kind of want exposure to the concepts in general. But I knew I wanted to go a little bit further. So I did the next level, the 201 training in order to get a certificate, to be listed on the website and stuff. And I definitely really liked my instructors, and I didn't know that there was different options out there at the time for training. And I felt like I learned some, but I think because I already had such a really good foundational knowledge of a lot of these things for how much time I put into the class, it didn't feel like it paid off necessarily for, what I learned that was valuable, like to me in my practice. I didn't necessarily know how to, fully apply those concepts. And so I actually had found you, I don't know if you remember this, I had found you on Instagram and I had emailed just whatever the email is on your website. And I was like, hey, I see you doing this. Like, can you tell me a little bit more about what you're doing, like what this is? And you had kind of explained about, the Greenspan Floortime, and I was like, I had never even heard of that before, which I'm kind of surprised because the Greenspan, like the clinic in Maryland, actually isn't that far from me. I want to say it's probably about 3 hours or so. But compared to most of the country, it's not really that far away. So I sat on it for a while and I didn't really do much with the information other than just like continuously think about it. And, as I had more kids and I was like, I just feel like I need more support. I kind of had to get them to the next level. And I was considering doing the next training through ICDL, but it kind of just went into the rest of the capacity. So I was like, I don't really feel like that's what I need. I need like a deeper look at the kids I currently have who are in these earlier capacities. So that's when I had reached out to Jake from Greenspan Floortime, got registered through there for some of the stuff with them online, and then started doing some of his group mentoring. We took a break, so we're kind of like restarting right now. And, I've only met with him a handful of times because we had a pretty long break over like the holidays and a little bit before that. I think he was traveling. But just from those handful of times, I felt like I've learned so much that I can apply like directly to the children that I work with. So that's kind of my journey. I'm still, I feel like pretty early in Greenspan floor time and still working through like a lot of the materials and stuff. But I knew pretty quickly that like this was the path I wanted to go down.
Yeah, I feel like once you because I did the ICDL training too. And I think that once you go through the class, it's just you don't really get the best information because you're only submitting two videos and then you're watching everybody else who doesn't know what they're doing too. And you're trying to figure out like well, exactly like you're saying, the techniques of floor time, it's hard to really master that within that type of setting. And then once I like had one session with Jay, it was like my mind was blown. Like, oh my gosh, this is everything that I missed. And so I think with people when they, jump onto a call with him or, just have like one session where he's coaching them, you really can just gain so much knowledge and just applicable understanding of how to be able to do that in your session. So I always encourage everybody, like, just check it out. Like, just have a conversation and see where it goes. And
And
what
I think Greenspan Floortime is you have to be the right type of person, which I like because then I'm around those type of people because it's not just as easy as, hey, I'm just going to log in every week to a class and kind of listen and maybe do a couple extra things. Like you truly have to be committed to embodying floor time and to like learning on your own.
Right, right. And I think that's really important. I mean, I think ICDL says that too, like floor time becomes who you are, but you really do have to take it a step further, in my opinion, to really be able to master it and know how to take the approach and use it for any profile of a child. That's the hardest part
Right.
about it is
Hmm.
you can learn something, but if you can't apply it to all these different kids, then you're you're kind of like, oh, I'm stuck, I don't know what I'm doing. So you're still going through the curriculum and attending all of that. Yeah, so how's that process, like going through the curriculum? What did you think about that when you got into the hub and you saw everything?
There's a lot of resources in there. It's really cool to be able to learn directly from Dr. Greenspan as well too, with some of his, original videos. And I honestly think a lot of like the PDF and blog resources are super helpful with being able to look at a lot of these topics more in depth. And I feel like just as how like Jake talks a lot about like having, the kids do the thinking, I feel like Greenspan Floor Times helped me do the thinking. With learning about these things. So it's all self-paced as far as like the actual online thing goes, which again, like you have to be, motivated to be able to do that. Um, but it's been really helpful to be able to go back and look at things and be able to pull resources, look through the manual, just have a lot of that guidance.
Yeah, it's really great. So talk to me about your practice. And now that you are, diving into all of this and really learning and embodying floor time, how has that been in your practice, being able to kind of transition that? Or what are you learning within your day-to-day work that is coming from this experience of you learning?
I think I've learned a lot more of how to not just follow what a child's doing, but really get the child attuned with me. And then once they are kind of knowing how to get to that next level, I think even before ICDL, before any of the trainings that I did, I felt like that's kind of where I was stuck. Is it, I'd be able to get this great back and forth interaction, but I never knew how to challenge children and how to get them kind of beyond that. So I don't do floor time with all the kids that I work with. Some of them are just
Right.
working on different sounds and stuff like that. It's just not kids that are appropriate for it. But for the kids I have that it is appropriate for, I feel like it's really helped me in the moment be able to think, be able to work through things, and be able to explain things to families as well too. Of this is why we're doing this. This is what I'm seeing. Here's what we could try to move them to the next stage. Here's these foundational skills that we're really still working on. This is what I want to see before we kind of move forward a little bit more. So, yeah, just being able to explain it to families. And then the biggest part has just been knowing how to get those kids challenged a little bit more.
Right. And it's a really great point because Floor Time is a parent-based coaching program. How
Mhm.
have you found, like, are you able to start implementing teaching parents about Floor Time, or are you not there yet? Or are they picking up on that type of approach? Tell me your experiences with that.
It kind of depends on the family. The kids that I have a really great group of parents, and my clinic, I've always from the beginning, and I think this comes from my experience in early intervention, like always prided myself on including parents to the extent that they want to be included. Now that looks different for everybody. Some parents, prefer just for their kids to be here and them to, sit in the waiting room, but for the parents that do kind of want to be on the floor and be involved, I found it really helpful to be able to like break those concepts down for them and then, in the moment be able to explain things. Or, I had a little guy that we were working through like a frustrating situation and grandma was trying to, use some different techniques. And I was like, hey, like, let's try this. And then she was like, oh my gosh, like that makes so much sense. And then, I know she's able to then think about that when she's at home.
I love that because you're showing them in real life how they can support the child. And then, like you're saying, it's not just about the child thinking, we're thinking, and then we're getting the parents and the caregivers to think too. And that is where, in my opinion, you see so much progress because everyone's thinking and everyone's trying to learn how to use and embody the approach, and it
Hmm.
can become so much more successful. So you said you have another SLP that works with you?
Yes.
So what about floor time with them? Are you teaching them that or they have experiences with floor time?
She's a little bit experienced with the play project, which I know is, has some floor time capacities in it and uses a lot of those skills. But I'd like to have more actual floor time services in my clinic, even being able to do, as I kind of get further along, be able to do like more intensive type things, just kind of seeing, what's out there for the needs, for people maybe not even in my community, but outside of my community, kind of like what you do as well too. So I think it would be helpful to have the other therapists kind of on board with that and learning these things. So she's a wonderful therapist, so I'm not really actively doing a lot of stuff with her necessarily, but I would love to be able to get her some more of the training from Jake.
Yeah, that's really great. Yeah, Jake is awesome. And I know that I always tell people this, and he knows I say this. Like he's kind of hard, and he's very upfront and honest. And
Hmm.
he will tell you when, you're not doing something right. And I think that doesn't fit for everybody, but for me, it really worked really well just to not beat around the bush and just be like, Ashley, yo, you need to stop or think about this. And
Right.
because it changes you. Like you can go from one session of doing something that is not benefiting the child, and then him telling you, okay, hey, you got to fix yourself. And then the next session, you're like, wow, okay, great. It's all coming together now. Yeah, I always laugh and tell the story about like the very first time he saw my video. I always tell him, I'm like, you pretty much told me I suck. He's like, Ashley, I didn't tell you you suck. I'm like, you pretty much did.
I haven't done any
Okay.
videos with him yet, so I'm preparing myself.
Yeah, yeah, you got to prepare yourself. But no, he's great and just a wealth of knowledge. And I think I love hearing from him and just his experiences of how his dad taught him.
Hmm.
When I worked really closely with ICDL and did a lot of things with them. And I even worked with people from ICDL that had trained under Greenspan, and their experiences of how he taught them are extremely different from what Jake tells me how his dad taught him. And I always tell Jake, I'm like, we need to tell people these stories because it's very interesting. And, just knowing that you're getting that direct line from Dr. Greenspan himself is you feel kind of like, oh, wow, I'm like right there with the research and the work. And
Hmm.
it really works. Yeah, that's great. So once you finish all of the curriculum, you are looking to go into the certificate part of it. And
Yes,
uh,
yeah.
that's great. I'm really excited for you.
Yeah, that's my plan, and to be able to just offer it and educate people here more about it as well too.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate the funding is lacking compared to, like ABA services, for example, in the area, but I do know there's families that are, seeking alternative services.
Yeah, it's true. And I think that it's our duty as professionals to really explain to parents different approaches. And doesn't mean they have
Mhm.
to choose what we say, right? It's just we are just educating you on what's available, and then you go and choose what you think is best for your child.
Right.
And I think that is really powerful for families when they can hear that because a lot of times I know, like here in Texas, everyone uses ABA because they just don't know about other options. And when they go to the doctor or someone gives them a diagnosis, they tell them, oh, you just need 40 hours of ABA every week. And that's not true for every child. So
Hmm.
I think the advocacy and just awareness around floor time is so needed with
Hmm.
in every
Yeah.
community.
And I think it's helpful for people to understand the social emotional side of it, which I feel like I didn't fully get as much, especially until I was, learning a little bit more through Greenspan Floor Time was like really that component and, how to work kids through different emotions and how to build some of those skills.
Right. I mean, because you're not taught that really in school at all. And
Hmm.
um Yeah, there I think that's a big difference too in the trainings is you get a little bit more understanding of that with Greenspan floor time. At least in my experience, that's what how I felt. But yeah, it's important because even as a speech therapist, it really does fall into your scope of practice and you could really benefit, just like you're saying with a grandmother, you can really benefit a caregiver when you can just give them a strategy or show them how to
Mhm.
respond in a certain way. Yeah.
Right. And when they're seeing that actually like play out in real time of what it looks like versus just someone explaining it or giving them a handout, but actually like being present in the session, feeling those emotions, feeling those things, and, seeing what the therapist is doing.
Right, you're so true. So, how long have you had your clinic?
So the clinic that I'm in now, which is much bigger, I've had only since September is when I moved in here. I had a previous clinic that was much smaller because it was just me. So it was kind of like it was two rooms, but they were just separated by like a doorway, not an actual door. So it was kind of just like one big open area with my desk, everything. Like, it was all in one in one space. And I had that clinic for a while, almost 2 years.
Okay.
Um, and that I would say maybe like halfway through is kind of when I was starting to feel like this itch to do something a little bit different. And because everything was in one spot, I noticed that I had these kids where I'm like, I feel like we could get further, but I was like, I feel like this environment is impeding what I'm able to do because I have a few cabinets yet that yes have doors, but they know they have toys behind them. And do I put a lock on the cabinet? But like it's also like right in their view and they had access to it last week. And I was like, I feel like I'm just going to create all of these issues if
Mhm.
I modify my environment right now, other than like completely removing stuff, which I also want the stuff for some kids. So
Right.
I was kind of like in this pickle of I don't really know what to do. And I was trying to, do things differently for some kids, but then, they would grab a toy and become, very fixated on that toy and which is fine there, but they were playing independently, right? And that wasn't therapeutic at all. So I knew when I switched to this new clinic, I was like, I'm going to do things differently. The kids that I have that are, all my families followed me, and I was like, the families that are coming here, a lot of them are really, really on board with pretty much anything I wanted to do. So I didn't really have that issue. And I was like, I have a separate room here. We're going to keep everything here. Until today, we had a room that did have some toys in it. And I was like, I'm just going to see how it goes, just with some sensory equipment and swings and some, things to jump on and balls and that kind of stuff. And I saw a pretty clear difference pretty quickly with a lot of the kids.
Wow. Yeah, I'm curious to know what made you jump the gun today and like take the toys out or lock them up. Like, what was your deciding factor?
Well, so now that there's two of us in the clinic, we kind of have been working out the flow of things because I don't see a full-time caseload. So it's a little bit easier because I don't always have kids. And my therapist, she has 30 kids on her caseload. So she has probably double the amount of kids that I have on a weekly basis. But there was times when, we would have that one room that it didn't have a lot of toys. It was very kind of like more Montessori style, a small shelf with maybe like five things on it, but that was enough.
Right.
Um,
It only takes one.
and so it'd be kind of hard because, maybe she would have a kid that was appropriate to be in there, maybe a kid she was just working on some artic stuff with that she would take in there and they were just kind of sitting at the table and doing some stuff. And then I would have a kid that's trying to get in there and we have a lock on the door on the outside. We can't lock it when somebody's in there. There's no lock on the inside. So we just like felt like we were kind of creating these battles that didn't need to happen. Um, because sometimes kids would accidentally get access to the room and then, we didn't want to pull them out kicking and screaming. So we kind of would just honor that, but we would know like we kind of lost them at that point. So I just like wasn't sleeping well last night, to be completely honest. It sounds kind of crazy. And I don't know why this like popped into my brain. And I'm like, what if we just get rid of that shelf in there? And then I said to my therapist today, I'm like, what are your thoughts about this? Like, what if we just move that shelf? We have like a full room that's like a storage room that we keep all of the toys in. I was like, what if we just like move that shelf out of the room and just like not like what if we just like avoid this? We can leave the door open. We're not dealing with like kids trying to go in there. We're having to stop them from going in there. We're having to like look to see if the kids in the hallway we know shouldn't be in there so we can like quickly get out of there. Like I was like, we're making ourselves a bigger problem. She's like, I think that's a great idea. So we literally immediately just like went, cleared the shop. We moved it together into the storage room. We left the dollhouse in there because that's kind of annoying to bring in and out. And I don't foresee that really being that big of an issue. And then we're like, you know what? We'll just bring, there's some kids that we allow access to the storage room that are fine to just walk in and grab some toys. And some other kids that we want to utilize toys with or utilize, sometimes for some of these kids, we're using like balloons and bubbles and that kind of stuff. Like we'll just be more mindful of grabbing it ahead of time, having it in a spot, but we're just like avoiding this issue. So we did it before we had any kids, so we'll see how it goes next week. But
You're gonna be like, where are all the toys?
yeah, but out of sight, out of mind. So
Exactly. Yeah. Well, then really you can become the toy and you're having fun with them. And then it's like, oh, I don't need those little things anyways. I think it's great.
right. And I had a session, I want to say like 2 weeks ago, and this child had never even been in that room. It's like they know. I'm like, you've never even been in here. And the little girl was trying to open the door. Thankfully, my therapist, I don't think was here, or was maybe in the back office with the client. And, it's locked at the top. So I'm just leaning into floor time of let's do some shared problem solving. And I'm pushing on the door. She's trying to get it open. And it was great until like she realized, wait a second, like I think this lady is doing this on purpose. And then I'm like, okay, but the end goal is still like I'm not opening this door. So I was like, let's just like avoid this. I can still keep it locked and still do that, right? And still facilitate that interaction. But then like we can actually follow through and open it up.
Right. Yeah. There's so many great things you can do with a
Yeah.
little comfort. Yeah. That's wonderful. I love it. I love it. Yeah. I really appreciate you just chatting with me and, talking about this. It's so great to connect and talk with another person who is studying Greenspan floor time and kind of can have that conversation. I think that with people who haven't seen the other kind of training, sometimes they kind of like can get confused by it and wonder like, what are you even talking about?
I also think it's helped me too. I do a lot of AAC here as well too. I feel like it's helped me take the pressure off of that. A lot of my kids, have devices and we still utilize them, but I don't feel this like immense pressure to use it every moment of every time. Like I feel this permission to really, really get that connection. And I've seen a lot more progress with my kids with devices when I've actually taken a little bit of a step back.
Yeah, I think that's really great. Yeah,
Hmm.
true. Yeah. Well, tell everybody where they can find you on Instagram. I love your Instagram. Like some of your videos are so hilarious. Like the one
I
where
know.
oh my gosh. I go back and watch it because I'm like, this is so funny.
I took like a hiatus for like a month. So I was kind of, like with getting a new employee onboarded, she has 30 kids. I do it all. I do the insurance billing, I do the admin. So I was onboarding 30 children as well too. So I feel like I kind of see the light at the end of the tunnel now. So I'll be back on Instagram, but you can find me on Instagram at Speech with Cassidy.